Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing the Radeon RX 9060 XT 16GB GPU in GTA 5 enhanced with Ray Tracing and with FSR 4. This one is the XFX Swift version of the card. I'm running it with the latest AMD drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU Z resizable bar is also enabled, and over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 7 9800X 3D and 32GB of RAM. Let's get into it, shall we? And we're starting at 1080p resolution. I'm also going to test this one at 1440p and 4K. I'm using the very high ray tracing preset with the high resolution ray traced reflections turned on. These are off by default on this preset, but these make a huge difference, and without them, it looks like crap. Honestly, the reflections will look super fuzzy and noisy. On the frame scaling settings, I am using the FSR 4. Beautiful stuff. If you want to know how to enable it, you go to your AMD Radeon settings. So go to gaming, graphics, search for FSR 4 and enable that. FSR 4 is yet another thing that looks amazing in this title. It completely changes the game for AMD GPUs, and the rest of the settings are just set to the default very high settings preset. Very high ray tracing settings preset, not very high alone, okay? Anyway, let's start counting our FPS, and we're getting 80-ish frames. This might not seem like a lot, especially at 1080p resolution, but remember, I made it rain, and this weather right here, which is the clearing weather, that's the name of it, it is way more intensive than without the rain and without the puddles everywhere and so on. But this is, well, worst case scenario basically for the ray tracing settings, and it still achieves 100 frames per second at times. It's still a smooth experience, so if you want to play at 1080p native resolution, there's going to be no issues whatsoever with the 9060 XT 16GB GPU. The 8GB model, however, might struggle a little bit. You can see that the VRAM is right around the 8GB mark. It actually went to 8.2 or 8,200 megabytes of VRAM allocated previously, and that could make the game stutter on the 8GB version, so you possibly need to lower down the texture resolution to high, for example, instead of very high. Not the end of the world, it's not a big deal, you know, but it's something to keep in mind. You should be buying the 16GB version, and this is an older title, you know, it's not too VRAM hungry either, so yeah, the 8GB in 2025, I don't know what AMD or Nvidia were thinking when releasing 8GB GPUs, but they shouldn't be releasing 8GB GPUs this year, you know, these days. Also, if you want to know about the FPS without the rainy weather here, so clear skies, for example, it gets around 10 more frames per second. Alright, so instead of where we started, we were getting like 90 FPS, we would get 100 FPS. And I saw that before I made it rain, actually. So let's keep on going here. Grassy area is actually getting more FPS than down there with the puddles, so that's nice. And Jack is here to see it, my friends, because Jack knows the 9060 XT 16GB GPU is actually a good GPU. So he's here and he's saying that to me. Let's go down here into Bob's Bushes, the worst area ever in GTA 5, and you can see that because the FPS drop like crazy into the low 70s minimum basically, and Bob is not here, my friends. Oh boy, he's probably trying to unoptimize the game. Yeah, because, you know, developers try to optimize their games, but Bob is always there trying to ruin things for everyone. That's one of the many reasons why we don't like Bob, okay? He's the worst. No worries, game looks great, the reflections look amazing with that ray tracing enabled. Big step up from the legacy version, you know, you can see like the cars going by us right there. Everything is being reflected in real time, which is really nice to see. And it's also really nice to see AMD with this new GPUs from the 9000 series having some decent, some pretty good ray tracing performance, closing the gap with Nvidia's GPUs, because the previous series, previous generation, 7000, yeah, the ray tracing on those GPUs left a lot to be desired, basically. You know, 7900 XTX was slower than like a 4070 Ti or Super. And it's a much better card in rasterization, of course. Anyway, let's stop it right there, guys. We got average FPS of 105, 1% lows of 73, always a buttery smooth experience, not raining anymore, by the way, so I'm just gonna try something different. Okay, yeah, extra sunny weather is also very beautiful. As you can see, it increases our contrast by quite a bit. It looks beautiful, it's perfect. Yeah, this is great of an experience at 1080p resolution. But let's bump it up to 1440p. All right, I'll keep everything the same here. So very high RT settings with that high quality ray trace reflection enabled, and the FSR4 native AA. And here we have it, much better in terms of clarity, guys. Oh boy, I love it, guys. Whew, it looks so good right now. Look at all of the reflections on the car. That's sick. It's so glossy today. Oh, I love it. Okay, and it's still getting us very decent FPS, right? With FSR4 native AAs. Dropping into the 60s now with some trees around us. Obviously, it's always going to drop a little bit inside of vegetation. But let's go to Bob's Hill, or no, Jack's Hill with Bob's bushes, yes, and see it drop from 60 FPS because it's obviously gonna happen, unfortunately, at 1440p with these settings, right? But you know what? That's not the end of the world, because FSR4 on quality is looking amazing in this game. I actually tried it for a little bit earlier today before starting the recording to see what kind of settings I would utilize at 1440p, and I would utilize these settings anyways, even if they drop from 60 FPS at native resolution, because FSR4 is a very good upscaler. It's probably a little bit better than what Nvidia has with DLSS 4 in this title, which is crazy. But yeah, I noticed a little bit less fuzziness with FSR4 quality than DLSS 4 quality in this particular game. It's not the case in any other game at the moment, but yeah, the implementation of FSR4 here in GTA 5 is awesome. It also doesn't have the ghosting behind the car, you know, that we see with DLSS in this game. So that's great as well. And here we go. What's not great is the FPS dropping to 49 frames per second. Can we see Bob, by the way? Since it's not raining right now, we might be able to see him up there. By the way, it's not raining, so FPS are a little bit higher than they would otherwise be down there in the city area, in the roads, you know. But here, it's actually the same, and worst case scenario, it's going to be the same. So we're still seeing it drop to the farthest that it will drop to without raining and with raining at the same time, because it's the same once again here in these areas. Hello, Jack. I just saw you there. How were you so quick coming here to this hill? What the heck, dude? That's crazy. All right. Anyway, let's stop it right there, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and try that FSR4 on quality. You can still play with native AA if you prefer it, of course. No problems there. I'm gonna increase the sharpness here to the maximum because I think I could use a little bit more sharpness here. And yeah, I mean, it looks really good. Even the individual strands of grass are very nice looking, if you're not at a very high speed, of course. But yeah, it's pretty good. Like, FSR3 would be completely wrecked with these settings, guys. It would look terrible with these settings. Quality FSR3 on 1440p resolution in this title. It looks pretty bad, in my opinion, unless your monitor is really, really high PPI, you know, like a 24-inch 1440p monitor, then it will look decent. But here, there is a slight difference compared to the FSR4 native AA, but it's only slight. It's pretty good, and it doesn't have the ghosting that DLSS has in this title. I'm not sure if it still has that. It's been a while since I tested it. And again, usually DLSS 4 is better, flat out better in 99% of titles, but this is the one game that I think FSR 4 looks better than DLSS 4. It's only slight, and probably if DLSS 4 didn't have the ghosting issue, it would be pretty much the same. but DLSS has ghosting, so there's that. Okay, so this is thundery weather right now, and I'm just gonna let it add the puddles on the streets right now, you know. Whenever there's a thunder, by the way, it drops your FPS, as you can see. Maybe because of the ray tracing, I don't know. So even with all of the rain on the streets, FSR4 quality is looking great at 1440p. It's such a good improvement over what they had previously, guys. I mean, it's night and day. They finally have done a good upscaler. You know, FSR1 was way worse than DLSS, the first implementations of DLSS. I only started trying DLSS with DLSS 2, by the way, with the 30 series. So I don't know exactly how DLSS 1 looked, but FSR1 was really bad. Then FSR2 came out and it was much better, but it's super grainy. It's really noisy of an upscaler, probably the noisiest of them all, or FSR 3.0, which is pretty much the same with added frame generation. You know, yeah, really bad upscalers, guys. FSR 3.1 then improved that, and it reduced the noise and the shimmering and so on from FSR 3.0 and 2.2 and so on, but it was still not amazing. It was really good in like Horizon Forbidden West, for example, but in most titles it's still super grainy and super noisy, unfortunately. But then DLSS 4 comes out and it kind of looks like DLSS 3 or maybe DLSS 2 in some games out there. So again, huge improvement. This is exactly what I wanted AMD to do with FSR. I just wish more games added it, and I wish more games had it by default, you know. But hey, they're going in the right direction, right? The GTA 5 just had this update with FSR 4. Looks really good. It doesn't have the ghosting again, which DLSS has, so it's just great. It's performing really well at the same time. Yeah, I really like to see this, but they still need to get FSR 4 out there for more developers to utilize, or they still need to make something like OptiScaler available to everyone through the drivers of AMD, you know? Like, that would be awesome. Anyway, guys, this is pretty good performance with FSR 4. This is how I'd play this game if I had a native 1440p monitor with this GPU. And FSR 4 once again comes in handy in a lot of titles that support it to play at 1440p with quality FSR, making games look great, and making it possible for you to utilize things like ray tracing and higher settings and so on. And utilize those 16 gigabytes of VRAM as well. Very nice. Anyway, that's it for 1440p resolution. We gotta check it out now at the 4K res. Alright, I'm gonna try the native AA first. And I just loaded this save game again, guys. Check it out from the beginning during daytime, because it was starting to get dark previously, and that looks ugly, I guess. But yeah, over here you can see that at native 4K resolution with the ray tracing added to it, it's a bit too much for the 9060 XT, unfortunately, and it drops from 30 frames per second. So it's not a pleasant experience at all. Let's make it rain, I guess, and try to find a beautiful red car that's not this red car, but this one also looks beautiful because of the reflections. Look at that. Oh, it's getting like 30-ish frames per second right now, guys, but as soon as we make it rain with the clearing weather as well, with a lot of puddles, I'm just gonna let the puddles fill in right now. And now clearing weather puts us down to 31 FPS, so a 10% decrease in performance, which is right in line with what I told you at 1080p. This car can't climb anything. Look at this. It's so slow. It's so bad. But yeah, this means that it will definitely drop from 30 FPS here and there. It's not a good experience at all. So we need to utilize that upscaling. Thankfully, though, since it looked so good on quality at 1440p, it will likely look very good on performance at 4K. But first, I want to try quality FSR 4. So here we go. Yeah, 4K resolution. That's a nice car over there. That's a nice car. Come on. Come on. I want that. I want that. I might be able to tell a little bit of a difference compared to the native res stuff. But it's super minor, guys. Honestly, I don't care. It's just got a little bit more sharpened, I think, than native AA. Because of the sharpening filter and because of the nature of upscaling, of course. Everything in the image looks super clean, super sharp. It's like using quality DLSS 3 before DLSS 4 was available, which was really good at 4K resolution already and totally worth utilizing. However, since it doesn't reach 60 FPS, even on average, I wouldn't utilize this yet. So I would drop this down to performance, because this is the sweet spot at 4K resolution, guys. FSR 4 on performance, looking great here, just a little tiny bit more sharpened. I'm actually gonna adjust that, because at this high resolution, we don't need the sharpening to be at maximum. That's a little bit better, yeah. And now we're getting 69 FPS. Amazing! Finally we hit that sweet spot once again. So I can tell that the reflections with performance FSR 4 are a little bit worse looking. They're starting to become a little bit fuzzy. But you could argue that in real life they're not super clean like they were at native resolution. Some people do say that, at least, so it must be true. I don't know. But yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as it was before the high resolution reflection update came to this game, because before that it was pretty terrible in terms of the internal resolution of the reflections. Now they're really, really good looking. Unfortunately though, oh my god, this car sucks. That's very unfortunate as well. But that's not what I wanted to say. Let's make it rain again, guys. Try to go for clear weather, yes. Extra sunny weather, that's it. Looking great here. And we still should have puddles down there, so let's see those. But unfortunately, it does drop into the 50s and low 50s at times. It's only in bushy scenarios, alright? So if you don't want to visit Bob's bushes, which you shouldn't, honestly. Who wants to visit Bob's bushes, right? They're the worst bushes ever created in mankind. But if you don't want to go there, you can just stay in the city. I mean, it is what it is. This isn't a 4K card yet. It is providing for 4K visuals with performance FSR 4 and ray tracing at the same time, and I can't complain about that. It's a good experience here. And you know what? The perfect experience for this would be on a TV as well. So if you have like a 1440p display on your desk with your PC, and play at 1440p most titles with FSR 4 quality and so on, it's going to be a great experience. I have my full review on this card doing just that. But if you have a nearby TV that's 4K resolution, I would probably use an HDMI cable to connect your PC into your TV and play like this, sitting back on a couch with a controller, and have this experience, because it looks super clean at 4K resolution, and on a big screen it looks really good as well. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. We're here nearby the cows and the bulls and so on. Very interesting. They're all Jack's friends, by the way. Damn, you're running very fast. Okay, I wouldn't think that you would run this fast. So with all of that said, thanks very much for watching once again. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. FSR 4 is definitely a go in GTA 5. And be sure to utilize it yourselves if you haven't already. I'll catch you in the next one. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.